Before the revolution dramatically reshaped its destiny, Iran in the mid-20th century stood as a nation of striking contrasts. It was a land where the echoes of ancient empires resonated alongside the burgeoning ambitions of a modernizing state. The country was a captivating blend of modern cities, gleaming with new construction, and the enduring charm of ancient traditions, meticulously preserved through generations. Beneath the surface of this transformation lay the vast reserves of oil wealth, which starkly contrasted with the reality of deep poverty experienced by a significant portion of the population. This disparity would become a key factor in the unrest to come. At the helm was Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who envisioned Tehran transformed into a cosmopolitan hub, a showcase of progress and modernity on the world stage. The city became flush with Western influence, evident in its architecture, fashion, and culture, fueling a period of rapid development. Oil money fueled grand construction projects, ambitious infrastructure initiatives, and the rise of a burgeoning middle class, eager to embrace the new opportunities. However, beneath the glittering surface of progress, resentment simmered, a quiet discontent brewing among those who felt left behind. The Shah's modernization efforts were largely top-down, imposed from the highest levels of power, alienating rural communities who clung to their traditional ways of life and felt increasingly disconnected from the rapid changes in the cities. Furthermore, the Shah's policies were sidelining Iran's deep-rooted religious and cultural identity, threatening the very fabric of Iranian society. Political freedoms vanished, stifled under the weight of authoritarian rule. The Shah's secret police, Savak, became a symbol of fear and oppression, as they ruthlessly crushed dissent, silenced opposition voices, and instilled a climate of fear throughout the nation. Intellectuals, those who dared to question the status quo, students yearning for a voice, and the poor struggling to survive felt increasingly marginalized and ignored by the ruling elite. While the elite prospered, indulging in a lifestyle of luxury and privilege that further widened the gap between the rich and the poor. The clergy, the guardians of Shia Islam, and the moral compass of Iranian society, viewed the Shah's relentless secularization efforts as a direct assault on Iran's soul, a betrayal of its Islamic heritage. They openly condemned Westernization, the growing inequality, and the erosion of traditional values, effectively rallying millions with powerful calls for justice, equality, and a return to the fundamental principles of their faith. Their message resonated deeply, offering solace and a sense of belonging in a rapidly changing world. This potent alliance of unwavering faith and widespread frustration, fueled by years of perceived injustice, would soon coalesce into a formidable force, ultimately becoming the monarchy's greatest and most devastating threat. In 1963, the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, embarked on an ambitious project. He launched the White Revolution, a sweeping set of reforms designed to rapidly modernize Iran, transform its society, and consolidate his own power. This initiative aimed to propel Iran into the ranks of developed nations. Key components included land reform, intended to redistribute land to the peasantry, and women's suffrage, granting women the right to vote and participate more fully in public life. The White Revolution also included an expanded education system with new schools and universities built across the country, aiming to create a more skilled and modern workforce. These reforms were meant to propel Iran into the future, transforming it into a modern, industrialized nation on par with Western powers. Oil wealth, rapidly increasing due to favorable global markets, funded massive infrastructure projects, including roads, dams, and communication networks, as well as a powerful, well-equipped military. But despite the grand ambitions and visible progress, the benefits of the White Revolution were unevenly distributed across Iranian society. Many peasants, instead of prospering, received small and often unprofitable plots of land, insufficient to support their families. This drove many from rural areas, forcing them into overcrowded cities in search of work, inadvertently deepening urban poverty and creating sprawling slums. Rapid economic growth fueled inflation, eroding the purchasing power of ordinary Iranians. As a result, the gap between the wealthy elite, who benefited most from the modernization, and the struggling working class widened dramatically, creating social tensions. The Shah's reforms, often imposed from above without genuine public input or consultation, bred resentment and opposition among various segments of Iranian society. This discontent simmered among both traditionalists, who felt their values were under attack, and modernists who believed the reforms were superficial and did not address fundamental issues of political freedom and social justice. The clergy, in particular, vocally decried what they saw as the erosion of Islamic values and the increasing westernization of Iranian culture. Meanwhile, the urban poor, struggling with economic hardship, and intellectuals, yearning for greater political participation, saw little real improvement in their lives. The White Revolution, initially intended as a vehicle for progress and national unity, instead deepened existing social and political divisions, ultimately setting the stage for widespread unrest and opposition to the Shah's rule. Despite outward appearances of strength and stability, the monarchy's grip on power was slowly but surely slipping. The regime continued to project an image of unshakable authority, even as the foundations of its rule were being undermined by growing discontent and resentment. Beneath the Shah's glittering facade, opposition was growing. The clergy, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, denounced the Shah's secular policies and Western ties, turning mosques into centers of resistance. Khomeini's fiery sermons inspired mass protests, and his arrest in 1963 sparked deadly riots. Exiled, he became a symbol of defiance. Meanwhile, students and intellectuals demanded democracy, resenting the regime's repression and foreign influence. Economic inequality and lavish royal spending fueled anger among the poor. The promise of modernity rang hollow for millions living in slums. The Shah's Iran was a nation divided, its foundations beginning to crack. The roots of Iran's mistrust of the West trace back to 1953, when the CIA and British intelligence overthrew Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh's nationalization of oil angered Britain and the US, who feared losing control and Soviet influence. Operation Ajax used propaganda, bribery, and violence to topple Iran's democracy and restore the Shah's absolute power. The coup destroyed hopes for self-rule and taught the Shah to rely on foreign support and secret police, not his people. For Iranians, it was a national humiliation, a bitter lesson in foreign interference. The Shah became seen as an American puppet, deepening resentment. The coup's legacy poisoned US-Iran relations for decades. It left a wound that would fester until the revolution. The seeds of upheaval were sown in betrayal. By the mid-1970s, Iran was a powder keg. Oil wealth masked deep inequality. Modern skyscrapers stood beside sprawling slums. Political opposition, once crushed, was reawakening. Liberals, leftists, and religious leaders all united against the Shah. The clergy's message of Islamic justice resonated with millions alienated by rapid secularization. The Shah's arrogance and isolation only fueled the fire. His symbolic rejection of the Islamic calendar deeply offended many. He dismissed unrest as the work of agitators, blind to the nation's anger. The regime's grip was slipping. All it needed was a spark. Iran was ready to explode. In exile, Ayatollah Khomeini became the revolution's spiritual and political leader. His uncompromising stance and simple lifestyle made him a symbol of resistance. Khomeini's message blended Shia martyrdom, social justice, and anti-imperialism, promising dignity and independence. Smuggled cassette tapes of his sermons spread his words across Iran, bypassing state censorship. He called the Shah a traitor and offered a vision of an Islamic government free from foreign domination. Khomeini's doctrine of velayat-e-faqih, rule by the most just religious scholar, provided the revolution's ideological backbone. Many secular allies overlooked this, but it would shape Iran's future. Khomeini's voice became the heartbeat of a nation on the verge of revolt. The revolution ignited in January 1978 when a government smear against Khomeini sparked protests in Qom. Security forces opened fire, killing students and triggering a cycle of mourning and protest every 40 days. Each round of violence drew larger crowds, uniting Iranians in their demand, "Death to the Shah." The Shah's response, alternating between repression and concessions, only emboldened the opposition. The Black Friday massacre in September 1978 shattered hopes for compromise and radicalized the movement. By autumn, nationwide strikes paralyzed the country. Oil workers, civil servants, and merchants joined in. Millions marched in the streets, and the Shah's army began to falter as soldiers refused to fire on their own people. The regime's authority collapsed. The revolution was unstoppable. Iran was on the brink of transformation. By late 1978, the Shah was a broken ruler, ill and isolated and abandoned by his American allies. In a desperate move, he appointed Shapur Bakhtiar as prime minister, dissolved SAVAK, and freed political prisoners. On January 16, 1979, the Shah left Iran for good weeping as he departed. His exit sparked nationwide celebrations, but the revolution was not yet over. Bakhtiar's government, seen as a relic of the old regime, was powerless against the revolutionary tide. Khomeini returned from exile on February 1st, greeted by millions. For 10 days, two governments vied for control. On February 11th, the military declared neutrality. Revolutionaries seized power. Bakhtiar fled and the monarchy collapsed. The Pahlavi dynasty was finished. The revolution had triumphed. The Shah's fall, a moment etched in history, wasn't just a change of leadership. It was the culmination of years of simmering discontent, a people yearning for something different. His departure marked the end of an era, leaving a power vacuum that would soon be filled by a force few anticipated. Unleashed sweeping change, a tidal wave that crashed over Iranian society. Decades of tradition were challenged, and the very fabric of the nation was rewoven. The revolution promised a new dawn, a break from the past, but the path forward was uncertain and fraught with challenges. Khomeini and the clerics, figures who had long operated in the shadows, quickly sidelined their former allies, those who had fought alongside them in the streets. The initial unity of purpose began to fracture as power consolidated in the hands of the religious establishment. Consolidating power through revolutionary committees and courts, institutions designed to enforce the new order. These bodies became instruments of control, shaping the political landscape and silencing dissent. The revolution's promise of freedom began to ring hollow for some. Hundreds of former regime officials were executed, their lives forfeit in the name of revolutionary justice. These actions sent shockwaves through Iranian society and beyond, signaling the ruthlessness of the new regime. In a wave of revolutionary justice, a period marked by swift trials and harsh sentences, the old order was being dismantled, replaced by a system that prioritized ideological purity and unwavering loyalty to the revolution. In April 1979, a referendum, a vote on the nation's future, established the Islamic Republic, solidifying the clerics' grip on power and setting the stage for a new chapter in Iranian history. By an overwhelming majority, a testament to the widespread desire for change and the charismatic appeal of Ayatollah Khomeini. The celebrations were jubilant, filled with hope for a brighter future under the banner of Islam. A new constitution, the foundation of the Islamic Republic, enshrined clerical rule, granting religious leaders significant authority over all aspects of Iranian life. This document formalized the revolution's ideological underpinnings and set the stage for a theocratic state, and Khomeini's authority as supreme leader, a position that placed him at the apex of power, both political and spiritual. His word became law, his vision the guiding principle of the nation. Strict Islamic laws replaced the freedoms of the Pahlavi era, a dramatic shift that impacted every facet of daily life, from personal expression to public behavior. The revolution sought to create a society grounded in religious principles. Women were veiled, the hijab becoming a symbol of the new order. Alcohol banned, and social interactions were carefully regulated according to Islamic principles. These changes reflected the revolution's commitment to creating a morally upright society. Western culture purged, deemed decadent and corrupting. Anything perceived as a vestige of Western influence was targeted, from music and fashion to political ideologies. Iran's foreign policy shifted, a rejection of both Western and Soviet influence in favor of an independent, Islamic-oriented approach. The nation sought to chart its own course on the world stage. Neither East nor West, but the Islamic Republic became the defining slogan encapsulating Iran's new geopolitical stance. This declaration signaled a desire to forge a unique path, free from the constraints of Cold War politics. The U.S. Embassy hostage crisis, a pivotal event that would define relations between Iran and the United States for decades to come. Severed ties with America, cementing Iran's anti-Western stance and ushering in an era of mutual distrust and animosity. The hostage crisis became a symbol of the revolution's defiance and its rejection of American hegemony. The revolution inspired Islamist movements worldwide, offering a model for challenging secular governments and promoting Islamic values. Its influence extended far beyond Iran's borders and reshaped the Middle East, altering the balance of power and fueling sectarian tensions. The revolution's reverberations continue to be felt throughout the region. The birth of the Islamic Republic marked not just regime change, but a fundamental transformation of Iranian society, politics, and culture. It was a moment that redefined the nation's identity. But the dawn of a new era, one whose consequences still echo today, shaping not only Iran's destiny, but also the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and the world. The revolution's legacy is complex and multifaceted, a subject of ongoing debate and analysis.